Hello everyone, it's Carol Garrison with Carol's Creative Escape. Thanks for joining me for this week's Tuesday tip. If you watched my Make It Monday video, you saw us making some of these beautiful slimline cards. These cards measure 9 inches by 3.5 inches. And these were just a couple of the examples that I made. And the nice thing about these cards is they easily fit into a number 10 envelope. But as I looked at that, I thought, gosh, we put so much work into making these cards pretty. This envelope doesn't really do it justice. And so I wanted to make sure that I could do a pretty envelope that would make sure that my card would get delivered safely. And so I've got these envelopes that I've created. I did this one for the beautiful world. Just added a globe on the outside of the card. I chose to use the lighter of the papers. I could have gone with my basic black as well, but because I wanted to be able to write on it and not cause any problems with the post office, I did choose to go with the cinnamon cider cardstock. Now, one thing I will let you know is these cards are weighed in at 1 ounce exactly without an envelope. So by using this cardstock envelope, it is over 1 ounce. It will require extra postage. You just need to be aware of that. Here's another envelope that I made using the Highland Heather to go with this Inspiring Iris card. And, again, very simple. I'll give you a template so that you can work with that. But I just think it adds a little bit of pizzazz to your card. And I think your recipients will really appreciate that. Now, one thing I found is there is a tab down here that we're folding under and covering by these flaps just so they don't get caught in a mail sorting type machine. Sometimes the card will hit that, and so it's a little hard to get it in. You gotta juggle it around a little bit. The easiest way around that is to just kind of pinch the the envelope open, and then it pretty much slides right over that at that point. Once I'm ready to seal my envelope, I'll be able to take that tear and tape off and have the card ready to go. I've got room to address it as well. So let me show you real quick how to make this envelope. It starts with an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. I have scored it at 2.5, and this side is scored at 2 inches, which actually translates into 6.5 inches. I'm not really sure why I put the 2 inches there, but I did. So 2.5 inches and 6.5 inches. And then on this edge, I've scored it at 1.25 inches, and this is a 1/2 inch in down here as well, which would translate to 10.5 inches. So 2.5, 6.5, 1.25, and 10.5. I then also took this punch and used the quarter rounder to round my corners here, 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 here. I thought it just gave it a more finished look when it was all done to have these corners rounded rather than square. It also helps if it's not exactly lined up on your score lines. That type of thing doesn't show. And then this tab is getting tucked under, and so to make sure that nothing hung out or created problems with folding it over, I just angled those off a little bit. Nobody's going to see that, so it doesn't matter. In terms of the adhesive that I used for the cards, I stuck a piece of tear and tape right here, and then I flipped it over and I put tear and tape here right along the edge. And then I also have tear and tape on the flap just to make sure that I can easily seal it. So I'm going to just put this down if you want to take a quick picture of the template. And again, this would be 6.5 inches or 2 inches if you rotate it. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. 1.25 and then 1/2 inch or 10.5 inches. And then let me flip this over and you can see where I used the tear and tape as well. All right, so let's get started. We are going to make an envelope for this beautiful card today. And so to start with, I am going to pull out my Score Pal. Simply score tool, actually. I'm sorry about that. And I've already got marks made for 3 of my score lines. And so I'm going to just score at 2.5. Every once in a while it'll jump out just a little bit. And then again at 6.5. And then I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to score at 1 1/4. This is the end that has the flap. And then score it at 10 1/2 inches. One of the things I found sometimes that helps make your score tool slide a little bit better, and this sounds kind of silly, but if you have a candle, I just rub a little bit the end of the stylus, and then I make sure that I wipe it off because I don't want to get grease on there, but it leaves a thin layer of the wax, and so it does glide smoothly down your paper when you're making your score lines. So just a quick little tip. All right, we are done with our score lines. Now what we are going to do is take our paper snips, and you're going to cut out the 4 corners. And down here, I'm just going to angle it up already on that little flap and cut across so that I'm taking that little angle out too. And I'm just cutting right up to where the score lines cross when I'm making my angle cut. And then I can slide that off, and looks like I'm off just a titch on this one. Okay. Then, like I said, what I'm going to do is come through with this punch and just hit the corners. And what I found is it was kind of difficult to get right onto these corners right here. So I folded it. Oh, I must have had a little bit of adhesive on my work surface. I went ahead and folded my card along these score lines and burnished it. And you do want to burnish it so you get a nice tight edge. That'll help the envelope to lie as flat as it can. And then I'll burnish this piece in. And when you've scored things, you kind of get the mountain and the valley. So you get the indentation and you get the mountain. You actually want to fold your score lines in so that you're folding the mountain part done, and the valley kind of stays on the outside of your folds. So what I did, just to make sure that I could get these, is I did all my folding first, and then I could easily slide this in and get it lined up. It was just simpler to do it that way. So that's how I got my corners rounded in there. The next step that I'm going to do is I do like to decorate my envelopes, even though I tend to forget to do that sometime. And so what I want to use is the stamp set, the Butterfly Brilliance stamp set. And I need to, this stamp is so big, it's one solid piece. And so I like to use my Stamparatus when I'm using this stamp set. And that is simply because it allows me to line up right where I want that stamp. Now, given the size of this envelope and the fact that it's popping up, I'm kind of doing this part on the fly. Hadn't tested it out, but I think it's going to be to my advantage to actually put my adhesive on. Normally we wouldn't tell you to do that because you don't want any extra bulk creating lines or anything, but I'm not very concerned about that. I've got my Stamparatus. I can restamp it if I need to. And this way I know my paper is going to be down flat. So let me add my tear and tape. As long as I've got it, I'm going to do the flap as well. Okay, And then I'm going to take this piece off, and the first one I'm going to fold in is the one that doesn't have the tape on there. And so I'm just going to fold it down and get it down there so it's nice and flat. And then I will pull off this other side and flatten that out as well. Now when I am stamping my envelopes, I'm usually going to do it in the what I consider the lower left hand corner, kind of right below where my return address is going to go. And so what I'm going to do is actually stamp upside down just a little bit, and again it just has to do with the size of the stamp. And so I'm going to tuck my envelope into the corner here, and I want to use one of the bigger butterflies. And so what I need to do is line up. Actually, this is going to be a little harder than I thought. I do need to flip it this way. And that way I can get my butterfly lined up where I want it on my envelope. And so I want to use this bigger one. And so I've got to just adjust where my envelope is placed on my Stamparatus so that this whole image will fit on here. And the reason that's important is that I want my image here. So I need to lay my stamp down right where I want that image to show, which is right there. And then I'm going to close my Stamparatus, and it will pick up my stamp so that I can leave my envelope right here where it is. And then I'm going to just ink up this butterfly. Now I'm going to mark, because I may shift this just a teeny bit, I am going to mark. See, I did shift it just a little bit. Let me verify I've got it in the right place, which I don't. All right, I am going to mark my paper here just so that I kind of remember. Oh, that pen's not very good, but fortunately it's doing what I need it to do. All right. We'll get rid of that one right now. So let me go ahead and I'm going to ink up the butterflies. I want to make sure I'm not getting any ink around the other butterflies. So I am going to just take my Post-it paper, the sticky stuff, and cover up the images around so that when I'm inking this up, I can just go right over this paper. It's not going to matter. Get my butterfly nice and inked up. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. That's what I mean with the paper, just to block stuff off. And I've got my butterfly inked. Now I can peel this paper off, and it looks like I got a little bit of ink. It may have soaked through just a little bit. I just re-inked it. Not a big deal. I'm going to come through and just wipe off with my chamois the few spots that I'm seeing ink that'll affect my card, because I don't want to get anything on this envelope. All right, and then I'm going to come back here and line my envelope up. And then bring this butterfly down and stamp it up, or press it down so I get a good image on it. I am going to hold my paper down just in case I need to restamp, but I think I got a really good image there, so I am not going to worry about that. Move my Stamparatus out of the way. I do want to color my butterfly. I use the Poppy Parade pens on this card, and so I'm going to do the same thing on here as I go through. I also use Night of Navy on these pieces, and so we'll cover it up. And this is going to soak through, but it's going to soak through just the one layer to the inside, so I'm not too worried about that. Nobody's going to see that part because I don't think they're going to disassemble the card or the envelope, and if they do, then they'll see it. So it's a slightly different image, but I'm just going to kind of color it similarly to what I colored my envelopes so that the two match up. All right. And then I'm going to use the darker color. And I'm not doing any fancy coloring. I'm just using my blends to add color to the butterfly. Not shaping it or shading it at all. But I think it's nice to add a little design to our envelopes. Just to, it's kind of a little surprise, unexpected for your recipient when they see something finished off like this, and they know that you've taken some time to make it look great just for them. And that's appreciated by anybody that's receiving these. All right. So now we have the outside of this envelope decorated. We've done our taping, and our card is ready to slide into it. Now see here, it's not quite going down. And so just pop it open and it will slide into place. Once I'm ready, I will seal it and I will have my card ready to put in the mail. So I hope that helped you. Please go over and visit my Facebook group page at Carol's Creative Escape Gathering Place on Facebook, and there is a video that will show you how to make these beautiful slim cards. I will be also creating a blog post showing how to make both the cards and the envelopes that will incorporate this video and the Facebook Live that I did. So feel free to check that out as well. And I hope you enjoyed this. Again, we've got simple, easy to make envelopes to really jazz up these gorgeous slimline cards. So thanks for taking the time to watch it. Again, Carol Garrison with Carol's Creative Escape. Feel free to visit my Facebook page at Carol's Creative Escape Gathering Place, or my blog at www.carolscreativeescape.com. Look forward to seeing you next Thursday with my next tip. Thank you.